Mostly Plants by the Pollan family. That's the cookbook that we're reviewing today, so grab a mug of your favorite beverage and join me for today's nutrition coffee chat. And while you're at it, click the subscription button below and the little notification bell so that you get everything you need to create healthy eating habits that stick. Yes, that Mostly Plants, that Pollan family. Michael Pollan, that's who we're talking about, the American author of so many fantastic and hugely influential nutrition food books. I'm a fan, such as The Omnivore's Dilemma, In Defense of Food. When I read those, I devoured those books, and yes, pun intended, sorry about that, couldn't help it. And it was just so great to see someone expressing my similar viewpoints, although a lot more eloquently, right? Eat food, mostly plants, not too much. Boom. Mic drop, enough said, there you go, right? And so that's exactly what we're talking about, that Mostly Plants. And yes, that Pollan family. But here's the thing, and just to be super clear, because I admit I totally didn't get it at first when I saw like, oh, Michael Pollan, oh my gosh, jump on that cookbook, bought it, the most excited cook I've been for reviewing a cookbook in the year and a half that I've been reviewing cookbooks here for you. But a little bit of clarification, because I didn't get this at first. I want to be really clear for you. This is by the Pollan family. There's a foreword by Michael Pollan, but the cookbook, the recipes are not by him. They're by female family members. And Mostly Plants is about 101 delicious flexitarian recipes. So it is recipes that are omnivorous, that are vegetable centric. So they are not vegetarian, vegan recipes. There are some in here, but it's not a vegetarian or a vegan cookbook. Let me give you their description, their verbatim description. So what does choosing Mostly Plants look like in real life? In families where not everyone is on the same vegetarian page, the word mostly is key. The point isn't necessarily to give up meat entirely, but to build a diet that shifts the ratio from animals to plants, creating delicious and nutritious meals that are sure to appeal to everyone. So that is the focus of this cookbook. And here's how they organize it. Table of contents. First, they start with how to use this book, and then they have mezes and bites, so appetizers, in other words, salads, soups and chilies, burgers, patties, and sandwiches, vegetable mains, seafood mains, meat mains, sides, and then DIY and sweets. People always ask me, okay, are there photos? And yes, almost every single recipe has a photo, and they are beautiful photos. And the texture of the page for my fellow tactile folks is really, really nice. Now, moving into recipes, what recipes did I try? First one was the white winter salad. This is one of the few that didn't have a photo, or at least a photo that I could find. And yeah, it was delicious. I often don't do a lot of salads in the winter, so that's why I was curious about this one. Usually more salads in the summer for myself, and in the winter I crave hot foods, so soups, stews, chilies, curries, things like that. So gave the winter vegetable salad a try. It was good, although it calls for Parmesan cheese, and I found the Parmesan cheese didn't quite go with the flavor profile, so I would easily make it again, but I would just omit the cheese. The next one, vegan ramen soup with tofu. I admit I substituted buckwheat noodles for the ramen noodles. And this recipe, well, I have to say it was quite indicative of the recipes in this cookbook. It was tasty. It was absolutely tasty. However, it involved a lot of steps. A lot of time that I found were really quite unnecessary. When I tried the dish after doing all those extra steps, I didn't feel that it tasted any better than if I hadn't done those extra steps. For example, in this soup, okay, the soup takes an hour. Don't know about you, but I usually don't have an hour to cook dinner, especially for a vegetable and tofu soup with noodles, where you're not even creating your own stock. But yeah, you bake the tofu, and then in one pot you boil the noodles, and then in another pot you're making the soup. And that's what I found, is that there were often a lot of extra steps, and I ended up with like my entire kitchen of dirty dishes. So not only did the recipe take an extra long time, but there was extra cleanup after it, which I just find annoying, and I didn't find that there was a boost of flavor from these. Also, take a peek at the text for this recipe. I don't know if it really comes across fully on screen, but there's a lot of words here. A lot of words. A lot of ingredients. And then the ingredients are listed like twice. Like there's an ingredient section and then like a from the market section where it just repeats those ingredients. So it just seems extra cluttered. And a lot of recipes have like a nutrition information or kind of like interesting facts, which again, kind of interesting. But when I'm looking to cook, I just want to focus on the words to make the recipe happen. And then a lot of the direction steps are huge paragraphs with so many steps involved in one. So I'll just kind of see if I can pull it up here for you. Like, check out this third step. There are like 18 things you need to do in it. I mean, I'm exaggerating for emphasis. I'm sure there's not exactly 18 things, but I'm a confident cook. And I was reading the instructions again and again and again. Like I was just, could not get in the flow and then get in my mind what I was doing because there were so many steps within one point. And I found that kind of throughout the book. So, you know, while this soup was good, it was far too much time, far too much cleanup, and was difficult getting it to happen. Okay, moving along. Kale, tomato, cannellini bean soup. This one was good. I already have one already in my repertoire around that, but it was good. Yeah, I'm not gonna kind of say anything about that. The next soup I tried, green split pea with zucchini soup and rutabaga. Again, that one was quite tasty. I think this might be another recipe without avocado. The next one, cauliflower spinach and chickpea patties. You know, I have kiddos in the household, and so, you know, they love a burger, so I'm often trying burgers from cookbooks. Again, 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's going to be a heck of a long time to make dinner. And this one, again, I had like the entire kitchen full of stuff dirty, and to tell the truth, it wasn't that great. They wanted you to use a potato masher to mash the chickpeas and mash the cauliflower. And so they never really came together. The cauliflower was still big chunks within the patty. And it would have been so much faster and I think created a better patty if you used a food processor. So I am curious to try this one again, but I'm going to use a food processor next time and see if I can get a better result. Because especially if you're looking for a patties type dish to get some extra veggies in for the kiddos without noticing them, those are still big hunks of cauliflower. My pickier kiddo didn't eat it. Crispy kale and potato hash with fried egg. Similar type of thing. Tasty meal, but an hour and 10 minutes to make a hash, like a fried egg dish? Yeah, that's a long time. Sheet pan, vegetable, and tofu dinner. Same result, same thing. Tasty, far too many steps, far too much time. I mean, the whole point of a sheet pan meal to me is you put it all on one sheet pan, it goes in the oven, you don't even think about it. Maybe you pull it out part way, you add another ingredient, you put it back in, but it should be that simple. This, you had multiple sheet pans going on and then you were combining them and it just, it was a lot of work. Too much work for the benefit. Teriyaki tempeh with broccolini and carrots. This recipe was just not good. And I don't mean just like not my kind of taste profile. My taste buds didn't work. It was not good. And unfortunately this set the tone. This was the very first recipe I tried in the cookbook. And yeah, both my sweetheart and I were like, oh, this is not good. And if this is a recipe book that's trying to convince people to eat vegetables, that vegetables are tasty, it was almost enough to convince me not to like vegetables. And I love tempeh and I love vegetables and I love teriyaki. So how it could go so wrong, I don't know, but it did. Okay, Mediterranean sea bass. This one, Kind of a mix. I mean, the sauce and everything was tasty. Again, took far too long and a lot of complicated steps. Dinner Uncomplicated had a dish, similar flavor profile, way easier. You put it in a pot, you cooked it, dinner was on the table, easy peasy, done. This one, you kept cooking the fish different ways and another way and another way and another way. And I even stopped partway through because I was just hungry and I was like, forget this. And the fish then was so dry and so overcooked. I mean, it was like chewing gum, like rubber. And I was like, oh, I didn't even finish cooking it in all the steps that they wanted. So I don't know what kind of sea bass they're getting. Now I did, to be totally honest, I did substitute a different fish for sea bass, but I always substitute that fish for sea bass. That's a local one we get. It has the kind of the oiliness and similar flavor profile, similar texture. So I always sub those out. So even though I did that, and perhaps that could have been the reason why this recipe didn't work, I do that all the time for recipes in order to have a more sustainable fish than the sea bass, and it works fine. So I don't know. I can't really attribute it to that. Last couple recipes here. Charred broccolini with smoked paprika and pepitas. This was good. This one was a win. And then the last recipe that I tried was a banana loaded cream pie with chocolate swirls. Now, you know me, if you've been following me for a while, I'm a lazy baker, so I made the banana cream pie. I didn't do the whipped cream and the chocolate sauce. People did love it. Again, you know, but it's really a dessert and there's a couple of bananas pieces in there. It's not really, you know, increasing the produce, but that one was a win. Yeah, so there we go. Those were the recipes that I tried. Yeah, not super surprising. I'm not a big fan of this cookbook. And I'm really sad about that because this was the cookbook that, as I said at the beginning, I was the most excited to try. And in a year and a half of trying cookbooks, it's the first one I'm going to say, I don't recommend it. Don't buy it. Its purpose is to encourage people to eat more vegetables, and I think that it actively discourages people from eating more vegetables because it makes it seem complicated, like it takes a long time. And while the recipes are good in the end, they're not really worth all that time and effort. So it kind of discourages vegetable consumption. What about you? Do you have some cookbooks that you love that are vegetable centric? Please share some good news. Share them in the comment section below. So yeah, I'm not even going to put this up on my website, not even going to talk about how to order this cookbook because I don't recommend it, or usually that's what I do at this point in the video. So I'll head on into a wrap up. If you did like this video, even if you didn't like the cookbook, please let me know. Click the thumbs up button. I've got 2 reviews of vegetable-centric cookbooks that I do recommend, and I've got those here, so please click on through to check out those. Have a good couple weeks, and in the meantime, I'll see you in 2 weeks later, but in the meantime, enjoy healthy eating.